Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So today we're taking a look at everything you need to know to dominate the Grand Arena, Snap's new limited time mode that's going live today on Reset. Should be up by the time this video goes out, and it's going to be sticking around for 2 weeks. So if you haven't kept up with the Grand Arena, here's what you need to know about the mode, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some specific things in terms of what do you get out of it? Is it attainable to get the new cards? What custom deck should you be looking at? That kind of stuff. So what is the Grand Arena? The Grand Arena is a new mode focused around champions and their unique skill cards. Every champion has a skill, and you're going to be starting every game with that champion and their skill in your hand. The champion does consume a draw, so you're still drawing 3 cards at the start of the game, one of which the champion is accounted for, and then the skill shows up alongside it as essentially a free draw. It's something that doesn't actually go into the deck. And anyone who knows anything about card games knows when you are guaranteed to have something at the start of the game, it's much more easy to build a game plan around that. And some of these spell skills are really strong. The one that really stuck out to me was Master Plan, which makes it so your 6-cost cards cost 3 next turn, so you could play this on turn 1 into Doctor Doom on 2. You might be asking, how can you do that? That's because in the Grand Arena, you start with 1 bonus energy at the beginning of the game. So turn 1, you have 2 energy, turn 2, you have 3 energy, so on and so forth. It's a normal 6-turn game like in regular Marvel Snap. There is no snap mechanics, so no doubling down or anything like that. Like most other modes, there's a short list of banned cards that'll pop up on the screen here, and like some of the other limited time modes in the past, this one is going to be operating off of a ticket system. I believe you get 3 tickets every 8 hours, and they're going to throw some starter tickets at you to get things going. And tickets are something you can purchase more of. Purchasing tickets has never been a really popular thing. It's not something people love spending their gold on to play these limited time modes. However, it seems they're going to be having like a daily offer or something of 10 tickets for 50 gold. So while I still don't love the whole paying gold for tickets option, it's nice to see that there is a very, very cheap option for getting a bunch of tickets. I think between that and the free tickets you're going to have available through the rewards track, as well as through the natural regen, you'll be able to play a whole lot of this mode without having to pay anything, which I think is usually people's concern when it comes to a ticket system. One of the big things about this mode that I'm really excited about, though, is that it is the first Marvel Snap mode to have pre-constructed decks. So whether you're a new player, a returning player, or just someone who doesn't feel like building a deck, you can just pick a champion and dive right into the arena. And these are fairly quality decks, in my opinion. I think the majority of them are very well constructed and seem more than viable for getting wins in the mode. They're all obviously themed around their champions and their skills, so they try and maximize value on each respective thing they're doing. And they provide a lot of different ways to play, which I also think is pretty important for something like this. You want the champions to really stand out from each other, and I think they do a good job of that. If you're wondering which of the pre-con decks stand out the most, the ones I think really kind of stand out from the pack here are the Doctor Doom deck, Herbie Zoo, Mr. Fantastic Ongoing, and The Thing Big Dudes with Surtur. I don't think the other decks are necessarily bad or anything, but out of all the lists we have for the pre-con decks, those are the ones that I think have the highest potential. But yeah, pre-cons I think are a really big benefit for something like this, especially since this is tying in with the new Fantastic Four release. It's a great opportunity to bring more new people into the game, and one of the issues Snap has always had with bringing in new players is, you know, you get a new player and they're trying to look up some stuff online about how they want to engage with this new mode that's themed around this movie they just saw. And it's like, well, I don't have any of the cards that people are recommending me play in this mode. Well, now you can play with a bunch of these cool cards that you are very unlikely to own as a newer player or maybe even a returning player, but you have access to trying out all these different cards and getting to play some like real games with them. I think that's one of the best things you can do for a newer returning player is just let them dive in right away and have some fun with it. So I really hope pre-constructed decks are something we see more of in the future for limited time modes. And if this mode goes well, I'd like to see different heroes and decks make their way into the fold the next time the mode comes around. Now, you don't only have to use pre-constructed decks. You could if you want, But if you love some deck building or you just want to get an edge up on some of the competition, it might make sense to build your own deck that's going to be maybe more effective than what some of the precons have to offer. So I threw together 5 different decks, each for a different champion, that I think have good odds of doing fairly well in the Grand Arena. I imagine we're going to see some data about this stuff come out a day or two into the event, so I'll try and do a follow-up on that when we have some like hard data on what decks are actually performing very well in the mode. But these are 5 options to get you started if you're someone who prefers to go in with a custom deck rather than one of the precons. The first deck is one that I think has potential to be very problematic in this mode, and that is going to be a Doom deck focused on the classic War Machine Legion Storm combo. This combo seems just ripe for abuse in a mode where you get an extra energy starting on turn 1. Makes it much easier to actually do the Storm War Machine combo. And even if you aren't comboing, Doom's skill making it so you can play 2 6-drops with 6 energy is really powerful for getting out a Doom alongside an Alioth or even an Infinite if you have a War Machine down. And frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if Alioth ends up catching a ban in this mode, because the card is very powerful and it's especially threatening in a mode where one of the main champions you could play as is Invisible Woman, who has always been very vulnerable to Alioth effects. So we have the War Machine Storm Legion stuff. We have both Dooms for kind of going wide on the board. We have Copycat, since people are just going to be running some high value stuff in a mode with more energy. Juggernaut is just a classic either turn 6 scam or a way to guarantee a storm lane if we don't find our War Machine. And we have Mercury Cannonball rounding it out as another way to just completely clean up a lane. If Lockdown's your thing, or you just like spamming Doombots across the board and big power with War Machine Infinite stuff, this definitely could be the deck for you, and I think it has a high chance of being one of the better day 1 decks for the mode. Another thing you can do is just make big things, and the Thing is really good at doing that. Because of the extra energy, you can get the Thing down on turn 4, which means at the end of turn 5, he will be a 10 power dude, so it's much easier to get a free or 1-cost Scar for the final turn of the game. And he really rewards you for playing a bunch of differently costed stuff, because that will reduce the cost of his spell, which is just a bunch of extra power on the Thing. So not too much to say about this one other than it's your standard Surtur Scar kind of stuff. It does go a little bit differently with something like Luna Snow. Luna Snow gives us a bit more in the way of a ramp, as well as a way to have another 1-drop out so we can get down our Cull Obsidian, since our only other 1-drops are Sauron and Hydra Bob. Juggernaut doing the scam Juggernaut thing for a deck that, naturally goes high in 2 lanes. If you just want to go really tall in one, and then you're ahead by a bit in another, you can use Juggernaut just to clean it up. But if you just like slamming big dumb points, it seems like the Thing is going to be one of the better ways to do that, and Surtur complements that kind of strategy very well. Unfortunately, due to anti-synergy with the skill, I don't think it's going to be worth running Nightmare in decks like this. But since the Thing is pretty good on its own, maybe it's something you could try by just jamming in Nightmare and Merlin as a little small package there. But I'm not super sure it's going to be worth it, especially in the games where you don't find a way to get rid of Nightmare. He's a pretty big tempo loss. So you'd have to high roll the Nightmare hits pretty hard to make up for that. If you're more of a combo gamer, this is one not for the faint of heart. I actually played pretty much this same deck with 1 card different. I think it was Ravonna over Carnage on ladder the other week. I believe this is Jet's build of Phoenix Force stuff. And it might look kind of nonsensical to you. It's definitely a deck that is far from straightforward to play, but the general idea of what this deck is trying to do is it's trying to blow up some high value target and then bring it back with Phoenix Force and get a lot of buffs or a lot of like Cassandra or Sage procs to make really big numbers. So naturally, a deck that's going to start with Carnage in hand and a way of reactivating Carnage is going to be a lot stronger with this kind of stuff, and it really appreciates that 1 extra energy. Phoenix Force has always been a deck that kind of wishes it could be a magic deck. It wishes it could have that 1 extra turn because a lot of the big impact stuff we're doing is 4 or in Panther's case 5 cost. So the fact that we have that extra energy I think is a huge boon to this deck. Some of the powerful lines you can do with this are using Kid Omega to blow up a Black Panther, gain that power on Kid Omega, bring it back with a Phoenix Force or Elixir, If you brought it back with Phoenix Force, you can move the Phoenix into a solo lane to Zola it. There's just a lot of strong stuff you can do with this. You can use Misery to kill a Gwenpool, which you can get reprocced through Firehair, bring it back with the Phoenix Force. Cassandra and Sage are both really good targets for eating him up with Carnage or Venom and getting the Firehair to proc before you bring them back again. It's very much not a super straightforward deck, and it's kind of hard to get a hang of until you actually play it yourself a bit. Maybe take this one for a few reps in Proving Grounds just to get an idea for the strategies before you start burning your tickets on it, because there is a bit of a learning curve to this one. But I think it is unique, satisfying, fun, and puts out a ton of power when the combos go right. So if you're a real combo gamer, this is definitely one I'd recommend. If you're a combo gamer who doesn't like jumping through a million different hoops though, ongoing combo stuff doesn't seem too bad either. Just put out a bunch of really big numbers and make your opponent deal with it. So we just jam in all the good ongoings into this deck, and the skill for Mr. Fantastic is quite powerful with them, bestowing essentially a surge buff on one of your ongoing cards in hand that will transfer itself to another ongoing card in hand once it's played. So this makes it even easier to get out some of our high cost threats like Iron Man, Claw, Spectrum, and Onslaught. But we're trying to be able to spread our power across 3 lanes using Mr. Fantastic to go wide, as well as things like Miss Marvel and Claw. And then Onslaught and Iron Man stuff allows us to go super duper tall in 1 lane. I did opt to throw a Cosmo in here. I don't know how much interaction there's going to be in this format. That remains pretty unclear to me. But I think at the very least, there will be a lot of Juggernauts running around. So being able to get that Cosmo down so you don't have to worry about your Iron Man Onslaught lane getting pushed away seems pretty valuable. And then if you don't really feel like thinking about the intricacies of the mode or the spells all that much, you can just play this Surfer deck. I feel like Surfer is just a good deck in general, and the skill for the Human Torch is essentially bestowing his power as a buff to the top card. So we're just playing Surfer with a buff theme. Obviously, Mr. Sinister and Brood are going to have really big benefits from that skill effect buffing the top card of the deck if they're hanging out on there. Absorbing Man gets us a bit more value out of those cards and helps us fill out like the Captain Carter lane or maybe the Torch lane to get him to double up. Gwen and Galacta are our big buffers. Shaw's a nice buff target. Juggernaut does Juggernaut things. Forge and Mr. Fantastic help us buff up either our cards that go wide, or Shaw, or just the Human Torch himself. So that way we can get an even bigger buff on that top card. So if you're looking for a deck that plays most similarly to a normal deck you'd probably be playing on ladder, Surfer with Human Torch seems like the way to do that. So those are the 5 decks that I cooked together for custom decks. All links in the description if you want to grab any of those to copy and import into the game to try for yourself. But again, I do think the precons for the most part are very reasonable decks. And especially on day 1, I wouldn't feel like you're playing at some serious disadvantage if you're missing cards and you just want to jam the precons instead. I think they are perfectly viable for playing this mode, and you'll be able to find some success with them. Now, let's talk a little bit about the cards and the rewards for this mode. So, we talked a little bit in the last video about Mole Man and Mad Thinker, and my thoughts on these cards haven't changed. They're both Series 4, they're both kind of niche, and I don't expect them to see a whole ton of constructed play, at least right away. Maybe when they get a little bit more support, or maybe they'll have a little bit of a niche role like Mad Thinker in a Merlin or card generation deck. I could see not being the craziest thing. But I don't think these cards are like must-have cards that you have to get to play a competitive deck. They definitely seem more on the fringe side of things. We also now know how you're going to acquire these cards, and you can just buy them in the shop, in the mode. There's no portal pull to these, so you don't have to worry about randomness. If you just want Mole Man and don't care about the Mad Thinker, or vice versa, you can just buy the card you want, which is good, and I hope that is the way they continue doing that kind of stuff going forward. Because especially last time around where they just jammed in 2 cosmetics alongside Cobra, I wasn't really a fan of that. So it's nice to see them just let you say, all right, hey, yeah, this is the card I want. I'll spend my currency on that card. Speaking of currency though, how easy are these cards going to be to acquire? And there's a event pass now. This is the first mode where we're having like kind of a unique thing to the mode that you can pay resources for to get bonus stuff. And I'm sure that's going to raise alarm bells for a lot of people, after some of the more recent controversies with limited time game modes. I am going to link in the description an article from Lauren Whatevs. Lauren's really great with all the math stuff and economic stuff, and she put out a ultimate guide to the economy of this mode. I'm going to be referencing some of what's in that article here, but I would encourage you to check it out in the link below if you want more information, because Lauren does a great job breaking this stuff down, making it easy to understand, and as such, I think it's definitely worth supporting her work. What's exactly going on with the event pass? And what does it cost? It costs 1,200 gold, so right off the bat, I'm happy they at least didn't slap a paid-only section on this like they did the Super Premium Season Pass card. That was definitely something I was a little concerned about, but no, it's for gold. And what are you actually getting out of doing that? So on the free side of the pass, what you get reaching the max level is 200 credits, 200 tokens, 16 tickets, 1,400 glory and experience, 1 thing variant, and 720 boosters. On the paid side of the reward track, you get an additional 200 credits, 200 tokens, 16 more tickets, 1,800 more glory and XP, a first steps thing emote, and 1,200 boosters. This event pass type structure is more of the way they should do something like this if they want to give people a reason to want to spend some of their resources in a game mode. The Kid Omega stuff came off really bad because that mode not only wanted you to be very, very active and doing all your quests every 8 hours, and even then, if you actually bothered to do it all, you still couldn't get the card, you were just getting a discount. And I think that is a huge part of what rubbed people the wrong way about that approach to, hey, we want to find a way to get people to spend resources in a limited time mode. In contrast to that, I think what they're doing here seems fairly reasonable on the surface. They're saying, hey, you can get some extra resources that you can use in other places, like the tokens and the credits. You'll get more tickets and XP, so you'll be able to engage with the game mode more, and you'll be able to buy additional stuff in the game mode shop. But it really doesn't seem like something you have to get if you just want to pick up one of the new cards. It will make it way easier, though, if you want to get one of the cards or if you're trying to get both of them. So it's really going to come down to how valuable gold ends up being for you, and that's something that varies a lot player to player. If you're someone who doesn't care a lot about cosmetics, gold is naturally a lot less useful in general outside of bundles. So maybe the bonus rewards here and making it so it's a little easier to get through the event faster, maybe that's a boon to you. One of the things that I think is going to be the real draw for this pass, though, is not so much the cards, as I don't think they're incredibly appealing here. I think it's going to be more the cosmetic stuff. And to me, that's really what this thing should kind of be focused more on. I think by far the biggest value in this kind of pass is not the small amount of credits or tokens, but it's extra tickets for playing the mode and extra experience, which will get you, the little tokens to get the things you want in the rewards shop. And the reward shop has some pretty neat stuff. It has these Champion Arena variants for Doctor Doom, Invisible Woman, and Mr. Fantastic, which are all pretty cool. It has some emotes and stuff. It has brand new borders that we have not seen before through other means, as well as some of the normal stuff like titles, avatars, credits, etc. And you can even gamble on some variants if that's your thing. So at least for me as a player, the thing that would drive my interest in getting something like this for gold would be that I think the cosmetics are really sweet. I think the Doctor Doom skin is really cool, and that's something I'd like to acquire. Or one of the new different border types. I think those are all pretty cool, and that's something I'd be much more inclined to spend my gold on, as it's a purely cosmetic feature, rather than gating away a new powerful card. And again, I don't think these two cards releasing are particularly super powerful. I think they're more niche and kind of what a lot of Series 4 event cards should be, where it's like neat if you get it, you can mess around with it a bit, but by no means are they a deck or archetype defining card, which Kid Omega was. Kid Omega was archetype defining for anyone who liked playing Nimrod, and that really added to the sting of locking it behind a big paywall. So how doable is it to actually get both new cards for free without spending any gold? So if you want to get one of the cards at a 50% win rate, it's going to take a total of 187 games played throughout the event, which averages out to 13 games a day. And if you want to get both cards, it's going to take you 334 games, with an average of 23.8 games a day, and that is going to require a 56% win rate. If you end up getting the pass for gold, it knocks these numbers down quite a lot. For someone with the pass, to get one card, it's only going to require 54 games, or an average of just under 4 games a day at a 50% win rate. And to get both cards, you need a total of 164 games played, so a bit under 12 games a day at a 50% win rate. So if you're someone who ends up not being super interested in the mode, but getting the cards is important to you, the best way to do that is going to be getting the gold pass, because it will drastically reduce the total amount of games you have to play, and it just seems a lot more economically sensible than using the gold to convert into the shop currency. That seems very inefficient by comparison. So overall, while I'm still not the biggest fan of them trying to figure out new ways to monetize these game modes, I think if you're gonna pick a way to do it, this is probably the best way that I can think of, where there's a bigger focus on cosmetic stuff, additional stuff, and it just reduces the amount of time you have to put in the mode pretty significantly, and it's not asking a massive price tag for it. 1200 gold is something that you can reasonably obtain over a month of being a free-to-play player. So if you end up liking the cards or liking the mode or wanting to engage with the cosmetics, that's something you can kind of plan around for the future if and when this mode returns, assuming things stay as they are now in terms of pricing. As we know, they have a habit of liking to test and change different things, so we'll see if that maintains over time, but at least in the current iteration, I find this to be a significantly less offensive way of trying to monetize their game mode compared to what they were doing with the Kit Omega stuff, or even compared to the Super Premium Season Pass. Again, if you want more information, there is a lot of information in Lauren's article, and I'd highly suggest checking it out, as it is going to provide a much deeper dive into all the economics than I am in this video. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for everything you need to know about the Grand Arena. I'm pretty optimistic for this mode. I think it has a ton of potential. I think there's a high likelihood many people will view this as their favorite mode in terms of gameplay. I think it's fun. There's different ways they could adjust it for the future and bring in new champions. And I'm really just a big fan of it being a much lower barrier to entry for a newer returning player to be able to enjoy it a lot. I think that's one of the things Snap has always struggled with. So seeing them take a bit more of a proactive approach to that with this mode makes me at least a bit hopeful about it. Let me know what you think about the Grand Arena. I'd love to hear it. Links will be in the description below if you want to grab any of the decks shown in this video or check out Lauren's article, which I recommend. But thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.